Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are, wow, starting with a frog in our throat. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, and I know we have a very special show in store for you this morning because we got a lot of viewer comments to kick off the program. We have a lot to catch up on, some updates. We have to pack a lot in because in the next hour, Assemblyman Phil Palmesano will be our guest. So get your questions in for the Assemblyman. We're going to talk a lot about energy because I know that's been quite a major topic this week and last. So we'll be discussing that, a lot of other issues as well. First, we start off with viewer comments, shall we? Frank, and this is in reference to as many Democrats are kind of steering clear from Mamdani, the mayoral candidate in New York City. It was reported that Barack Obama called him, kind of embracing him, some people around Obama embracing him, seeing perhaps where the young socialist Democrat may be the new wave of the Democrat Party, perhaps. One viewer writes in, Frank, Obama is a communist and wants to destroy the U.S. because history will always repeat itself. Love the show. Thank you. That came in after yesterday's broadcast. Well, Obama did always have that little bit of, a lot of people claimed, a socialist type mentality or a mindset. So it may not come as a surprise to some that he would embrace Mamdani when so many others haven't. Hakeem Jeffries saying, yesterday that he's not even mayor yet. I don't want to weigh in on it. He's not even mayor yet. Hochul distancing herself. Many others not endorsing Chuck Schumer. But we'll continue. Comment from a different viewer. Why are we wasting more taxpayers' money? What a joke. This is in reference to the appeal to the decision that the New York State Supreme Court found completely in Sheriff Allard's favor. We had Kelly Fitzpatrick, the chair of the Steuben County Legislature, on the program yesterday. And the idea is, and we read that piece from the Hornell Sun about it, it's cost, the estimate is around $200,000. And actually, I think someone sent that to me. The same viewer sent me that. Around $200,000, somewhere between $200,000 and $250,000 already before the appeal for taxpayers to go after the sheriff, trying to take away his insurance. We know that this was not done in good faith, according to the New York State Supreme Court. We know that there was too much use of executive session, et cetera, et cetera. So what we learned with the sheriff and we clarified with Kelly Fitzpatrick was that because legislator Scott Van Etten was named in that suit, he can then, against the will and the wishes of the legislature, decide on his own to pursue this appeal, which would be fine. But where people are taking issue is that is not coming out of his pocket. That is coming out of your pocket and my pocket. So even though the legislature voted 10-7, which I still think 7 is troubling, but 10-7 not to appeal because his name was on that suit, he is now moving forward with the appeal. And that means that you and I have to continue that tab going. Now, that's not even to take into account what, unfortunately, the sheriff has to pay for out of his own pocket. What this is costing him, not only financially, but the stress and the strain on him and his family. And many people are, in that piece that we had yesterday, many people are suggesting that that's the reason for kind of the pettiness of this appeal. Now, we'll see where it all goes in the future, and we'll, of course, be keeping you updated on it and see what the court decides. But, boy, I don't see how you water down the language that much from the New York State Supreme Court original decision, which was very strongly worded against the legislature. Very strongly worded. So this viewer clearly upset. Also continuing, same viewer saying Scott Van Etten has got to go. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Believe everything you read. Star Gazette article, reprinted from USA Today, explained how bad the big, beautiful bill is for we, the ignorant ones. They state that a person earning $23,500 a year would pay $2,500 in federal tax. Amazing. The IRS allows an individual deduction of $15,000. The remaining $8,500 is taxed at a 10% rate for $850. Hard to believe it could be printed as a mistake when their intent was to show that the bill is bad. Not beautiful, thank you. And finally, Mark writes in, "Good morning, Frank." Well, good morning, Mark. Newsom was holding a meeting for redistricting California, and it was shrouded by ice. And he was not happy. He was not happy. We hopefully we'll be able to get to that. Because the optics, you're exactly right. And Russia slammed Ukraine with missiles. A lot of people upset about that, and drones before the meeting in Alaska. And Trump says there's a 25% chance that the meeting with Putin won't work. What is being reported by, I think it was the New York Post, is a win, lose, or draw. They are still going to hold a joint press conference. That is what's being reported. So whatever you think of that. Also, a viewer did write in and bring this story to our attention, and I don't believe we did bring it up, so I'm glad that they mentioned it. It was published back about a week ago that John Deere is investing $20 billion in the United States. Of course, the iconic farm equipment giant John Deere announced this year that it is investing nearly $20 billion over the next decade to bolster its U.S. operations as part of its ongoing commitment to American manufacturing, saying, quote, "We look forward to carrying forward our founders' legacy of ingenuity as we continue building and investing in America. We were born here, and we're here to stay." So thank you for bringing that to attention. We'd like to see these type of wins in American manufacturing. Now, a couple of updates. Yesterday, we brought to you the Kennedy Center honors and the announcement and the criticism. And I know I perhaps spent too much time on it. We're not going to do that this morning. But where CNN had that whole article about how this proves, or this is kind of encapsulates the Trump presidency with just the honorees. And it was very kind of strange. And of course, it went on to call him an authoritarian and these type of things. However, you get that out of the list of honorees. We do learn that Tom Cruise declined the invite to receive a Kennedy Center honor, saying that it was the typical, quote, scheduling conflict. Cruise's offer decline was confirmed to the outlet, the Washington Post, by several anonymous sources. So a scheduling conflict, all right. Well, that takes nothing away from the star-studded list of performers: Sylvester Stallone, Kiss, Gloria Gaynor, British actor Michael Crawford, and country music star George Strait. Now, on The View, or I don't know if it was on The View, but The View co-host Ana Navarro, she actually pled with musical icon Gloria Gaynor to reject her upcoming Kennedy Center Award. Why? Well, of course, you know, because it was bestowed by President Trump. In a post on Instagram, she said, "Let's just say during first Trump term, I pressed it till it ran out of batteries," meaning the song "I Will Survive." Trying to be kind of cute there. Okay, so I put on "I Will Survive" during the first Trump presidency and till it was out of batteries. Yesterday, Trump announced he picked her, Gloria Gaynor, to receive a Kennedy Center honor, which he plans to host. "Look, the woman is a goddess and deserves all the flowers that come her way. But I wish she wouldn't accept an award from the hands of a man who has attacked the rights and history of women, people of color, and LGBTQ. The gay community in particular helped turn her signature song into an anthem. Trump is a stain on the prestige and significance of the Kennedy Center honor. Don't do it, Gloria." A rep for Gloria Gaynor told Fox News that she was beyond blessed and honored to be receiving this award. "My hope is that in accepting this honor, I could continue with the inspirational phenomenon that began with 'I Will Survive.' Sharing my music and art on a global level to provide encouragement, hope, empowerment, inspiration, understanding, and unity is the core of my purpose. I've always focused on a creative path that will help others, and I hope that being awarded the Kennedy Center honor will help me continue this legacy." So begging her, Ana Navarro, begging her not to accept the award, an award that Ana Navarro will never have to be concerned about being bestowed upon, that she'll never have that bestowed upon her. She wants her to turn it down because of Trump. Okay. What else do we have? We have a lot of updates. There's no way to segue. This is important, though. We brought to you the story about the Toronto International Film Festival yesterday and the disgraceful, disgusting move to essentially ban a documentary based on the October 7th terrorist attack in Israel. Their reasoning was pathetic, essentially saying that because some of the footage in the movie was from Hamas, even though it was live streamed in what you would call the public domain, the film's creators needed to get permission from Hamas, permission from the monsters that did the murders, that did the kidnappings, that did the rape. Well, needless to say, when you're caught red-handed in your hand in the anti-Semitic cookie jar, so to speak, they realize they may have picked a losing battle, much like some of the universities have realized they've picked a losing battle. The Toronto International Film Festival, in what is being called a stunning reversal, will ensure the screening of a documentary about Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel. One of the other reasons they gave, not only that you had to secure the rights from Hamas, but also one of the excuses they gave was essentially, we don't want the anti-Israel, anti-Semitic protesters at our events. Caving to mob rule before the mob rule did anything. Saying, essentially, the old saying, they let the terrorists win. Yes, originally booting the film because the terror group hadn't given permission to use its footage. Their turnaround comes only as the festival faced outrage over reports that the movie The Road Between Us, The Ultimate Rescue, wouldn't be screened because the filmmakers used footage filmed by Hamas but didn't obtain the rights to the clips. And that even goes against their mission statement. We read that all to you yesterday. We don't have to relitigate it. Festival CEO Cameron Bally defended the earlier decision to bump the documentary, denying accusations that censorship played a role. I want to be clear. Claims that the film was rejected due to censorship are unequivocally false. I remain committed to working with the filmmaker to meet TIF's screening requirements to allow the film to be screened at this year's festival. So I wonder if Mr. Bally wants to reach out to Hamas to maybe ensure the footage is okay to use. Maybe that's what you could do then to ensure that the film airs. I've asked our legal team to work with the filmmaker on considering all options available. But the documentary filmmaker said the film has not been reinstated at the festival. As it stands, TIFF has not communicated to us in writing that it has reversed its decision. This continues to be a negotiation. The filmmakers previously panned the festival's legal argument as ridiculous, arguing the Hamas footage they used was live streamed as the terrorists butchered civilians and therefore clearly is in the public domain. So a little back and forth here. They're saying it was a reversal. But is it? Will this be aired, so to speak? And despite their insistence the film was nixed over legal lines, sources told Deadline that it was actually cut for fear of anti-Israel protests, as I mentioned. Their initial statement even seemed to hint at that, referring to potential threat of significant disruption the documentary could create over its highly sensitive subject material. So again, caving to mob rule. Caving, just like we've seen at Harvard, for instance, saying, okay, as the president of Harvard, I will give up 25% of my salary to make sure that we protect the anti-Semitic protesters. In this case, we will ban a film, we will censor a film because we don't want these agitators, these disruptors, to protest outside. Well, Bally appeared to walk that rhetoric back as well, saying it was never my intention to offend or alienate anyone. Given the sensitive and significant nature of the film's subject, I believe that it tells an important story and contributes to the rich tapestry of perspectives in our lineup. Stories that resonate here, at home, and around the world. While we are not a political organization, TIFF will always strive to present our programming in a safe, inclusive environment. So they're saying they will do everything they can to ensure that the documentary is screened. But will this be a scenario like we saw on college campuses when a conservative was invited to give a speech? They would say to the Republican organization, well, you have to pay this much for security or we can't hold it. Or basically, with the lack of security, you have to cancel. That was happening. That was one way of censorship, kind of a backdoor censorship. It was happening all the time. Will that be the way Toronto Film Festival handles this? Have they actually seen the light because of how much outrage there was over this? Time will tell. Now, when we come back, 2 updates on Jasmine Crockett. An update on Melania and her legal action against Hunter Biden. And then some updates on judges, activist judges during the Trump administration. We do have a few things here about D.C., about ICE. We probably won't get to a lot of New York stories just with me, but of course we will when the Assemblyman comes in at 7 o'clock. So stay with us in the 7 o'clock hour. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Look at that beautiful view of historic Marcus Street with the clouds in the sky. So picturesque. Looks like a painting. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio in said Marcus Street. So Jasmine Crockett, the up-and-coming rising star of the Democrat Party, denounced Republicans as racist at a film festival in Martha's Vineyard last week. But maybe the biggest takeaway from the event, which was hosted by none other than the Reverend Al Sharpton. He was reminiscing about working with Shirley Chisholm on the 1972 presidential campaign, 4 years after she became the first black woman elected to Congress. And he went on to compare, well, sort of, Crockett to the trailblazing congresswoman. But hear me out exactly how I read this, because I'm not making a mistake when I say this. This is the Reverend Al Sharpton, and I quote, "I lived to see Shirley Chisholm morph into Barbara Jordan, morph into Maxine Waters, morph into Ayanna Presley, and Jasmine Campbell." That's how, I guess, historically significant Jasmine Crockett's life and times has been to Reverend Sharpton. So much so that he can't remember her last name, calling her Jasmine Campbell. Also called her a diva. What's interesting about this, though, is here is a person that we've learned very much likes to control the narrative and her image. So much so that her screen on her cell phone, you may have a beautiful landscape photo or a picture of your kids or grandkids or you and your wife or husband, something meaningful to you. Her screen lock photo is a picture of herself. We learned that when the Atlantic did a glowing piece on her, she tried to stop it from being published when she learned that they also interviewed other representatives on what they thought of Jasmine Crockett, saying as a group that throws around authoritarian so much, saying that she was not going to allow it to print, which of course you can't do. I don't know if you know that, especially once you've done the interviews and once you've agreed to doing the interviews. But a big power move, which actually came to backfire on her because they mentioned that in the article when really all of the comments from the other representatives were positive. But she didn't know that yet. So someone who wants to control her image so thoroughly really stepped in it there. She did not appear to acknowledge the gaffe. She moved on, even though Al Sharpton called her Jasmine Campbell. So Sharpton added, "So I lived to see 4 or 5 generations of black women that will stand up when black men were too afraid to stand up. And when black men were running around talking about how they liked Trump's swagger. Well, you got enough swagger now." Jasmine Crockett followed up by presenting her argument for why most black people are not Republicans. Quote, "I talk to black folks all the time as somebody that's a child of a preacher. Listen, most black people are not Republicans simply because we're just like y'all racist. I can't hang out with the KKK and them. That's really what it is. But when we think about who we are as black people and we think about where we come from, most black people have very conservative values, right? But the reality is that we just can't side with the neo-Nazis and them. We not dealing with y'all like that, right?" Whoa. Let me try that again because I'm not trying to be demeaning in any way. I'm trying to exactly get this word for word. Let me try it again. "That's really what it is," said Jasmine Crockett. But when we think about who we are as black people and we think about where we come from, most black people have very conservative values, right? Here we go. But the reality is that, like, we just can't side with, like, the neo-Nazis in them. We not dealing with y'all like that, right? She does like to say like a lot. Crockett urged the artsy crowd in Martha's Vineyard to find your role in this fight, likening opposing Trump to the civil rights movement. I get it, we are not monolith as black people, but you got to understand when they come for one of us, they're coming for all of us. I don't think I have to read the quote again. I just want to get it right for the history books. She also said, and this is interesting, that she hates the Heritage Foundation, and I quote, with everything in my body. Interesting stance to take. People don't understand how terrible the Heritage Foundation is when I tell you I hate them with everything in my body. Now, this is the same conversation. It was advertised as an inspiring fireside chat where they'll explore the power of joy as a political and cultural anchor and driving force behind justice, storytelling, and community transformation. Now, normally saying that you hate something is not what I would consider the power of joy, but I know joy has kind of been thrown around to mean different things. Joy is resistance, these type of things. So during her remarks about hating the Heritage Foundation, Ayanna Presley, who was also attending the event, interjected saying, Project 2025, they laid it all out. Now, the Heritage Foundation did play some role in the Project 2025 creation, for lack of a better word. Crockett said, so Heritage Foundation has been around for a very long time. And yes, we became familiar with Project 2025. We probably became familiar a little too late. But nevertheless, other work that they did and other work that they're doing is something that we don't do. One of the things that they do is they constantly are doing polling. But besides doing polling, they do focus groups. She also went through some of the things that she disliked that they did. But what they did is they were listening to these focus groups and they were trying to figure out how we can get people emotionally aroused. And it's just like when you think about when you're going to buy a car knowing you don't need the car, but it smells good, it looks good, you get real emotional. And we actually have laws in most states that allow for you to come down from the high and allow you to take that car back. So when we allow ourselves to get very emotional, then all logic is out the window. So hating the Heritage Foundation with everything in my body. All right. There's your Jasmine Crockett update, Rising Star. We've got a couple of quick things here about Hunter Biden and Melania here. Then some judge orders we'll go through very quickly. A little bit about D.C. Feel free to weigh in, change topic at any time if these aren't doing it for you, because we've got a lot to cover. As I said in the 7 o'clock hour, get your questions in for Assemblyman Phil Palmesano. We look forward, as always, to talking to Phil with Fridays with Phil. All right, here we go. We got to take a break. Stay with us. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I think it goes without saying that when I brought to you the story yesterday that Melania Trump said no more Hunter Biden with this suggestion that there's some link between her and Jeffrey Epstein, saying that this legal threat that she may sue for up to $1 billion if he doesn't retract the false and defamatory comments. I don't think it takes too much guessing to suggest or to come up with what Hunter Biden said in response. I don't know. Is he doing this podcast like all the time? Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan? Because that's where the original interview was, that wild ride. Yes, his response was, blank you, that's not going to happen. Always classy, Hunter Biden, who may want to be a little careful because we know that he's had huge legal issues in the past. He has suggested that he's broke. that he's struggling with money. So even the beginning of this process will cost him money. So, according to CNN, President Donald Trump confirmed that Melania Trump's attorneys are threatening legal action against Hunter Biden and that he told her to go forward. Quote, I've done pretty well on these lawsuits lately, and I said, go forward. Jeffrey Epstein has nothing to do with Melania and I introducing. But they did do that. They make up that story, he told Brian Kilmeade. Andrew Callahan, the host of this channel, this podcast that Hunter Biden appears on, said on his channel that he had received a legal demand from the First Lady asking to retract a video from last week, which currently has 1.3 million views. Melania Trump is seeking $1 billion in damages if they don't take down the video. She also wants a formal apology from Hunter Biden. This is what the host of that show said. In my hands is a legal demand letter and addressed to Mr. Hunter Biden from the First Lady of the United States, demanding a retraction of Channel 5's video called Hunter Biden Returns, in which Mr. Biden here makes some speculative comments about the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein, Melania Trump, and Donald Trump. So perhaps moving forward. Blank that. Not going to happen, said Hunter Biden. All right. We'll continue to watch it closely, but the New York Post, I think, had a really good salient point on this, saying, tough as my competition may be, the Democrats' most vile smear has got to be the ongoing insinuation that Melania Trump met her future husband thanks to notorious predator Jeffrey Epstein. Tough as the competition may be, that may be the Democrats' most vile smear. The First Lady has been aggressively squashing the crass smear for weeks, ever since chronically wrong scandal hawker Michael Wolff claimed on a Daily Beast podcast that Donald and Melania met through modeling agencies with ties to Epstein, and suggestively asked, where does she fit in the Epstein story? Where does she fit into this whole culture of models of indeterminate age? Wolff knows his market for sleazemongering. The usual Trump haters were soon foaming at the mouth. But truth still matters. The Daily Beast had to retract and apologize for a story reporting on Wolff's claim. Next, veteran Bill and Hillary Clinton counselor James Carville repeated the charge on the podcast Politics War Room, but soon had to apologize and take it down. Then Hunter Biden pushed the lie in a profanity-riddled interview with Channel 5 and answered demands he retract his remarks, true to character, with blank you. Then again, Hunter probably has no assets left to lose in any lawsuit. But it's sexist filth and downright creepy. The obvious suggestion is that Melania wouldn't have succeeded on her own, nor formed a genuine bond with her husband. These men insist on crediting the infamous trafficker instead. Dragging a woman's reputation through the mud is, we guess, just an added benefit to them. Very different from how they treat a Dr. Jill or Michelle Obama. It means nothing to them that the First Lady is plainly distressed by the smear campaign, as evidenced by her repeatedly sending her lawyers to kibosh these lies. Lefties always shout, believe women, until a woman on the wrong side of the aisle tells them she's not, in fact, a victim of some heinous scheme, a sick fiction these supposedly enlightened Democrats are perpetrating a bit too gleefully. This doesn't even come off as more mud thrown at the president with his wife as collateral damage. It's a head-on assault on her integrity and her honor. Frankly, it's hard not to conclude that these men are enjoying the pain they're causing this beautiful woman, which is sick even by the abysmal standards of modern American politics. I thought that was spot on with that case, but there are so many that are gleefully reporting on it. Shouldn't be surprised that James Carville is gleefully reporting on it, because look what he did to some of the accusers of Bill Clinton. So they're getting some type of sick joy out of this when it is clearly distressing to the First Lady. It goes to show you the hypocrisy of those on the left, as the Post have said, believe all women until it's a woman on the other side of the aisle. We're going to go through some judges, activist judges, when we come back. Get your comments, get your waves in. We're having a fun Friday already. We've got Assemblyman Phil Palmesano in on the program. We're hoping to hear, of course, as always, from Climate Fact Friday Bob. No guarantees. I don't want to put a workload on him, but I have a feeling we may hear from him at some point. We also have a couple other quick things if we have an opportunity to get to it. Not much on New York issues in this hour or at the top of the hour with me, because why not save it for the Assemblyman. But if you have any questions for Phil, get them in. Also, I do want to remind you quickly, if you don't already have weekend plans, our good friend, you may recall she was on this program a few times, and she was on our Big Fox News at 10 for quite a while. Our friend Maggie Hall is in a play, and it's our friends also with the Elmira Little Theater. Now, unfortunately, our schedules did not line up. I wanted to have them all in on the program. That's my fault. I apologize, because I know they're having a blast getting ready to put this on, and it is. Elmira Little Theater presents Heathers, the musical. You might remember Heathers, the movie from the late 80s, early 90s. I think it was late 80s. The performances at the Powers Theater at the Clemens Center will be held Friday, August 15th at 7:30 p.m., Saturday, August 16th at 2 p.m. and 7:30 p.m., and Sunday, August 17th at 2 p.m. So again, great, talented cast, one including our good friend Maggie Hall. So again, Friday, today, 7:30, Saturday, 2 and 7:30, and Sunday at 2 p.m. at the Powers Theater at the Clemens Center. You can get your tickets at the door. I want to remind you so you can plan your weekend accordingly. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm sorry, I'm just... Thank you for that comment. By the way, I did not mean to ignore you on your other question. I just didn't want to text you too early this morning. I have not watched the movie, it's part of my, or the show, part of my language, Hell on Wheels. But I think the way I'm reading it is you recommend it. I'll give it a shot if you say so. I like your other comment, but I may have to. I'll read some of it. Maybe it's about time Republicans turn the table on Democrats, such as the following unfounded claim illustrates. I can't repeat it because then I'll be in the same suit. He needs to make money from to pay for his lawsuit that Melania is going to pursue. So I cannot. I know. I get the fact that you said I heard from anonymous sources that Hunter Biden. I appreciate it, but I'm not going to go further. I'm not going to take the fall for that one, but I appreciate your point. I know people don't know what I'm talking about, but I appreciate that viewer's point, and I also appreciate the recommendation. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Looking forward to hearing from Phil this morning. Me too. I would appreciate any thoughts he may have on what we can do to fight back against the never-ending rapid increases that NYSEG is proposing. It's supposed to be a 5-year implementation to appease us and make it less painful. Do we really think that there won't be any more increases on top of this over 5 years? I don't believe it. I will make sure to read that question to Phil because we are the major topic this morning. We have a lot to cover, but is energy, because there is such a, especially with the increase being proposed, there is so much outrage. So yes, we will get to that. Let's go to some judge updates, shall we? We talk about the activist judges on this program so frequently. A federal judge has blocked the Trump administration's guidance against DEI programs at schools and colleges. This is an attempt to try to stop every part of his agenda. A federal judge yesterday struck down 2 Trump administration actions aimed at eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion programs at the nation's schools and universities. In her ruling, U.S. District Judge Stephanie Gallagher in Maryland found that the Education Department violated the law when it threatened to cut federal funding from educational institutions that continued with DEI initiatives. Amazing to me how much of our taxpayer dollars are, I guess, constitutional rights. We've heard that over and over again. I guess it's a constitutional right for these universities to receive our money. The guidance has been on hold since April when 3 federal judges blocked various portions of the Education Department's anti-DEI measures. The ruling yesterday followed a motion for summary judgment from the American Federation of Teachers and the American Sociological Association, which challenged the government's actions in a February lawsuit. The case centers on 2 Education Department memos ordering schools and universities to end all race-based decision-making or face penalties up to a total loss of federal funding. It's part of a campaign to end practices the Trump administration frames as discrimination against white and Asian American students. The new ruling orders the department to scrap the guidance because it runs afoul of procedural requirements, though Gallagher wrote that she took no view on whether the policies were good or bad, prudent or foolish, fair or unfair. Gallagher, who was appointed by President Trump, and that's a rarity in these scenarios, rejected the government's argument that the memo simply served to remind schools that discrimination is illegal. Quote, it initiated a sea change in how the Department of Education regulates educational practices and classroom conduct, causing millions of educators to reasonably fear that their lawful and even beneficial speech might cause them or their schools to be punished. So there you are. Also, a judge has ordered RFK Jr.'s HHS to stop sharing Medicaid data with immigration officials. A federal judge ordered the Department of Health and Human Services to stop providing access to Medicaid enrollees' personal data, including their home addresses, to immigration officials. District Judge Vince Cabrera, an Obama appointee, granted a preliminary injunction blocking the Department of Homeland Security from using Medicaid data obtained from 20 states that filed a lawsuit to stop the data sharing. The order, handed down Tuesday, blocks HHS from sharing data on Medicaid enrollees in these states with Immigration and Customs Enforcement for the purpose of targeting migrants for deportation. Cabrera, the judge, wrote, using CMS data for immigration enforcement threatens to significantly disrupt the operations of Medicaid, a program that Congress has deemed critical for the provision of health coverage to the nation's most vulnerable residents. The judge wrote that while there is nothing categorically unlawful about the DHS collecting data from other agencies for immigration enforcement purposes, ICE has had a policy against using Medicaid data for that reason for 12 years. So there's nothing categorically unlawful about it, but yet ordered to stop sharing that information with ICE. And here is one that I think you're going to be shocked. I'm sure you thought this was well in the rearview mirror. But a federal court ruled against the Little Sisters of the Poor on Wednesday in a years-long effort by blue states to force the order of Catholic nuns who care for the elderly and the poor to provide contraceptives to their healthcare plan, or face millions of dollars in fines. The U.S. District Court of the Eastern District of Pennsylvania sided with New Jersey and Pennsylvania, finding that religious exemptions to the Affordable Care Act's contraception mandate granted by the federal government during the first Trump administration was arbitrary and capricious and did not follow the Administrative Procedural Act. And here we go. U.S. District Court Judge Wendy Beadlestone, an appointee of former President Barack Obama, wrote in the order that the religious exemptions are vacated in their entirety. Beadlestone issued the order despite, this is an important takeaway, Beadlestone issued the order despite two separate Supreme Court rulings upholding religious exemptions to the ACA's contraception mandate. So as you see in many of these instances, we are now having activist judges that are ignoring higher courts, are trying to step over higher courts and showing that these sometimes circuit court judges, these small judges, are more important than, in this case, the Supreme Court, more important than the agenda of the President of the United States, who was voted for and voted by the people of the United States. So as David Orsani says, it's enraging. More than a decade after the Obama administration first tried to force the Little Sisters of the Poor to buy contraception, states are still hounding the nuns in court. At its heart, Obamacare was a massive welfare program meant to redistribute healthcare costs to the middle class. But it was also a social engineering project aimed at coercing religious organizations and businesses to adopt progressive values. The Affordable Care Act mandated employers, including nonprofits such as the Little Sisters of the Poor, to pay for contraceptions and their worker-provided health insurance as an essential health benefit under the category Preventative and Wellness Services. There was no religious exemption. It's worth taking a step back and thinking about that term. The very idea that an American citizen should be impelled to ask the state for an exemption to practice their faith is an assault on the fundamental idea of liberty. Imagine having to ask the state for an exemption to exercise your free speech. What makes this case even more unsettling, of course, is that the state is demanding citizens engage in activity that is explicitly against their faith. Now, there may well be numerous theological disputes within the Catholic Church. The use of contraception and abortion aren't among them. There's absolutely no question that nuns hold genuine, long-standing religious convictions, and there's no question that liberals want to smash them. The problem is that Obamacare mandate is authoritarian and unconstitutional. And the only way to fix that problem is to overturn it, is how he wraps up as we wrap up this segment. We got to take a break. Keep those comments coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Boy, we have a lot to cover. I'm sorry. I get distracted sometimes because the comments come in right at the end of the break, and I want to get to all of them in this segment because we have so many. Let's get right to them. Comments from viewers. Here we go. Getting my list, checking it twice. Ken writes in, it shouldn't be surprising that Hunter, a person that is devoid of any moral character, would do and say anything to endear himself to the also morally devoid Democrat Party and their benefactors. Hunter has to find someone to buy his art. Daddy still needs his 10%. Here's the problem with that, Ken, and I agree with you. He'll say it to anything. And the art, by the way, I guess has really dried up, the art sales. We learned that. I think now he's working for a non-for-profit, which means he's probably making a lot. But the problem with that is in his first interview, the Democrats hated him because basically he blamed the Democrat Party for not being loyal to Biden, which I would argue is a fair point. Biden, who had been loyal to the party for 50 plus years, Pelosi, Schumer, the names at that time, stabbing him in the back, kicking him out. So I could understand from taking an outside perspective where you could say the Democrat Party wasn't loyal, but boy, a lot of Democrats took issue with that. And so the language that Hunter was using in the interview, I think many used back at him while hearing the interview. I don't think he helped the Democrat Party, but to your point, he will do and say anything to get this attention, to get his name back relevant. Think about after that interview when, who was it? I think Joe Rogan said he should run for president. He loves that kind of stuff. He's very much like his father with that ego, very much like the whole Biden family. So, yes, I would agree with you, but also say that in that instance, he may have made some enemies as well. But yeah, I'm not surprised that he would do and say that about Melania Trump and then go on to further cuss and say that he does not, for all intents and purposes, does not care about the threat of a lawsuit. All right, we got a lot of comments coming in. So what I'm going to do, because we're going to take a break here in just a second, I'm going to wrap up hour number one with the rest of the comments, okay? One of those is Climate Fact Friday Bob, sending in his climate facts. And I can see already he's asking me to say impossible names. Okay, this one may be more of a test than a fact this morning. I appreciate that. But we got a lot of comments coming in, so please bear with me. I know I'm not forgetting anybody's, okay? I'm just going to get through a couple things here, and we'll save those because I get so excited for all the comments. We'll save them for the last segment of this hour. Attorney General Pam Bondi issued a 2-page order yesterday rescinding illegal immigration protection in D.C. and naming an emergency police commissioner for the city's Metropolitan Police Department. Bondi's order, titled Restoring Safety and Security to the District of Columbia, mostly took aim at sanctuary city policies within the nation's capital, rescinding any order that limits how Metropolitan police officers can handle interactions and incidents with illegal immigration. Now, Mark had mentioned this at the beginning of the program. U.S. Border Patrol agents will say, have a strong presence. You could also say maybe crash the party. And an anti-Trump rally held by Gavin Newsom. This was about redistricting in California because to save democracy from redistricting, he is going to redistrict. By the way, the agents, I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh reporting this. The agents made at least one arrest. Newsom is rumored to have presidential aspirations. Yeah, worst kept secret. And has become one of the most outspoken critics of Trump, held the event which he labeled Liberation Day. Oh yeah, his new big thing is, and it's not working for me. I'm not a fair judge of it. But he's trying to emulate, kind of be a copycat of how Trump speaks on X, on Twitter, on True Social, doing all caps, trying to use the same type of kind of cadence, if you will, but it's not working for me. And it comes off kind of flat, kind of, I hate this term, but cringeworthy because he's trying so hard. Video taken by the local affiliate Fox 11, obtained by Fox News, showed what appeared to be over a dozen armed and masked Border Patrol agents just outside the rally. The agents could be seen leading a man away in handcuffs as onlookers shouted angrily. We're glad to be here, said one agent. We're glad to be here. We're not going anywhere. Asked what his message was to Newsom, he said, again, we're making Los Angeles a safer place. We're going to continue to do that, and they can take that one to the bank and cash it. So here is his response. Newsom, again, remember, this is all caps. He's trying to copy Trump. We will not be intimidated by weak little Donald Trump, the criminal president. Trump's private army is illegally on private property. All right, we got to take a break because I want to read these comments. Now I'm running late. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. Comments when we return. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Don't be mad at me. I'm going to save, this is not a trick or some way to keep you hooked. I'm going to save all the comments and any others that come in till the top of the next hour because I would have to rush. We have a great Climate Fact Friday with Bob, but I don't want to rush through that. I don't want to rush through all the other great comments. So please, this is not some type of promotional gimmick. I'm not trying to just keep you hooked into the 7 o'clock hour, but it's unfair to rush with such great comments being sent in. Because I also wanted to stress this before we wrap up this hour and bring this to anybody's attention that you know needs to hear it. Our good friend Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard reports that yesterday, a citizen from the Painted Post area reported receiving a call from a person claiming to be a police officer who informed her that she was delinquent for jury service. This alleged officer then directed the caller to pay fines via a text voucher to avoid arrests. This, and let me highlight this. This is in all caps. This is a scam. I repeat, this is a scam. At no time will a police officer solicit money over the phone or by any communication method to avoid the arrest of any person. If you receive a call like this, hang up and call 911 or your local law enforcement for investigation. Scam avoidance is everyone's business. So again, I want to reiterate, this is a scam. At no time will a police officer solicit money over the phone or by any communication method to avoid the arrest of a person. Okay. Kicking off the next hour with a lot of great comments from viewers. Also, we're going to be talking with Assemblyman Phil Palmesano. We also have, if we get a chance to talk about it, I mentioned earlier that the Kremlin says there is a plan for a Trump-Putin joint presser after the summit. Putin yesterday praising Trump's energetic and sincere peace efforts ahead of Alaska summit, praising the president before this summit. So we're all keeping, the world, I suppose, is keeping an eye on this summit. We'll learn more later in the day. I'm not sure exactly what time the actual summit takes place. I tried to look for that. I have not seen it. I'm sure it's probably easier to find than I gave it time for. But when we come back, comments, stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking with our number 2. Don't go anywhere. It is our number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I am your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Coming up in this hour, we'll be talking with Assemblyman Phil Palmesano during the Steuben County Office for the Aging section of our program. So you can always get your questions in during that broadcast, during that interview. He's live in studio here, mere moments away. As promised, in the last hour, sit back and relax, because we got a lot of comments to read from viewers. Let's get right to them. Good morning, Frank. Steve here. Well, good morning, Steve. Guess we are going to relive history all over again and again. Even when the courts speak, there's another to conflict even unanimous rulings. Yes, there's another judge to even conflict even unanimous rulings. How about we relive bakeries trying to be forced to go against their religious beliefs and get sued? Has everyone already forgotten about that? Yes, and you had the one clerk that wouldn't perform marriages, gay marriages. I remember that recently, maybe this week or last week, there's some she's taking that back to the Supreme Court. You raised a good point, Steve. Thanks for writing in. Mark writes in, I see Obama is sticking his nose in on the Democrats that left Texas for redistricting. He is going along with their actions. Not just going along, he's out there encouraging him. He called their move inspiring, was his term. He praised a group of Texas Democrat lawmakers for fleeing their state to stop a vote on a redistricting bill, calling their actions inspiring, according to reports. I guess it was a private Zoom meeting. Texas State Representative Gene Wu, who is a chairman of the Texas House Democrat Caucus, thanked the president for the meeting and the encouragement. Wu said Democrats were encouraged by Obama's words and remain committed to fighting for democracy in Texas and across the country. He lauded their fight against the Republicans' efforts to enact an even more erroneous gerrymander in Texas ahead of the midterms. The spokesman told the outlet that Obama made clear that they are part of a bigger effort to protect free and fair elections and commend them for inspiring others with their action. All right, we can talk more about that. I guess Texas Democrats set plan to end their nearly 2-week walkout. They announced they will return provided the Texas Republicans end a special session and California releases its own redrawn map proposal, both of which were expected to happen today. So California is fighting the end of democracy with redistricting by redistricting. And that was the press conference that Newsom was holding as ICE agents were on the perimeter, if you will, kind of crashing the party. All right, more comments. That was Mark. A comment from a different viewer. Frank, maybe a shout out to Chemung County legislator Rodney Strange is in order. Always a shout out to our good friend Rodney Strange, of course. He has been giving updates and keeping us informed and working to get more answers and transparencies. Thank you, Rodney. And of course, yours truly, and that, I assume that means me, but thank you, I appreciate that. Or if it just means you, I appreciate that. Yes, Rodney Strange is doing a great job on this. He's fighting back against these increases. He's been very outspoken on it. So kudos to Rodney. As always, he's a hard-working legislator. He does a great job. So we all say kudos are in order. Comment from a different viewer. What has happened to the idea of separation of church and state? Or have I fundamentally misunderstood the conversations about the sisters? No, you haven't at all. And that's what David Hersani was alluding to, or really coming out and saying it. I didn't have a chance to read the whole article, but essentially saying that this was through Obamacare, as it was known at the time, Affordable Care Act, that was used as a way to start to stifle religious freedom and religious speech. So you're exactly right. It was one of the, not unintended, one of the intended consequences of Obamacare. All right, here we go. Climate Fact Friday, Bob. He writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Climate Fact Friday, Bob. Here's your climate fact. All right. I appreciate this too. Mutin Milankovic, a Serbian-born mathematician and geophysicist, figured out that the Earth's orbit around the sun is forever changing. The Earth's orbit is not symmetrical, but is more ovate, and that it is changing slightly year to year. Also, the tilt of the Earth on its axis changes from 22.5 to 24.5 degrees. This happens over a 41,000-year cycle. We are now at 23.5 degrees. The Earth's tilt is what gives us 4 seasons. The third effect is called precession, is the wobble of the Earth on its axis. Like a spinning top, as it slows, it wobbles more. This wobble cycle takes place over 26,000 years. All these cycles in Earth orbit has a significant impact on long-term climate change, creating ice ages and warmer periods. The kicker is most of the pseudo-scientists today do not even recognize Milankovic's work. They just keep pushing the idea that humans are responsible for all the current-day climate change. This must be so when you donate money and pay your ever-increasing taxes, that you will feel good that you are saving the earth and making them rich. Side note, has anyone noticed how the Democrat Party is crying poverty and that they are broke? Now, at the same time, the Trump administration has cut a lot of money going to these green energy NGOs. What is going on? It is as simple as follow the money. That's all. Have a great and safe weekend. Climate Fact Friday, Bob. We appreciate it as always. We always appreciate our climate fact of the day. That day happens to be Friday. All right, we got to take a break. Assemblyman Phil Palmesano joins us when we return. We are back. Thank you to Boss Security for, of course, bringing us that beautiful view of historic Market Street. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, and in that studio, Assemblyman Phil Palmesano. I got to move my camera a little bit. Sorry about that, Phil. How you doing this morning?
Good morning, Frank. How are you?
Good.
With you again.
Good to see you. We've got a lot to talk about. Let's start out with a viewer comment. And this says, good morning. Looking forward to Phil being on this morning. Well, here he is. I would appreciate any thoughts he may have on what we can do to fight back against the never-ending rapid increase that NYSEG is proposing. It's supposed to be a 5-year implementation to appease us and make it less painful. Do we really think that there won't be more increases on top of this over 5 years? I don't believe it.
Well, I mean, NYSEG is one in a list of utilities that have been going to the PSC to ask for rate increases. Just yesterday, National Grid was approved by the PSC for rate increases upwards of 30%, which by their own numbers would increase over a 3-year period utility bills by over $600.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're looking at. I mean,
that's insane.
And the NYSEG, they just came off of a 3-year rate increase, and now again they're going to this proposal they put out there was like a 1 year. They're talking about 35% increase for electric, 39% for gas, and then they'd like to spread it out over the period of time. And of course, the governor, and these are ridiculous increases. I'll be the first one to admit it. The thing is, I get the hypocrisy from Governor Hochul and even some of my other colleagues in the legislature, Democratic colleagues in the legislature, who are really critical of the increases, and I understand the critiquing of it.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, Governor Hochul and the Democrats in the legislature fail to look in the mirror and recognize it's their
They're the
green
problem.
energy mandates that are creating this problem. Where was Governor Hochul's outrage in July of 23 when the PSC approved $43 billion in future ratepayer increases specifically to pay for the green energy mandates? Mm-hmm. Where was Governor Hochul's outrage when her own plan with the passage of the CLCPA, which used a 20-year methodology versus a 100-year methodology to measure emissions, like every other state does -1, like the U.S. uses, the International Coal uses 100-year methodology. Because of that, it will increase prices at the pump by 63 cents a gallon, increase natural gas home heating costs by 79%. Where was her outrage? What is she doing about that? Nothing. She continues to move forward with this march towards full electrification, which we know is not going to work. It's not reliable. No. And now the other thing on this energy, they released an energy plan for a draft comment, and in September there's going to be hearings around the state. And we had a briefing with NYSERDA, who's kind of putting it together. They said they're trying to justify the additional spending. They said if we don't do anything, just kind of going along as well, we're looking at 100. This is like a 15-year look out over 15 years.
Yeah.
$120 billion in costs. But if they do more, if they get to net zero, they're talking about a 35% increase, which would be an increase of $449 a month on utility bills. So
when does it end? And I mean, I know a lot of people saw increases. I know your office got calls. Senator O'Mara got calls when we put the new smart meters in and whatever you think about those. I know a lot of people's bills went up on that. And then on top of that, they've had these increases. I do want to read because Governor Hochul to make a comment on this. It was WLEA, or Friends of WLEA. I got this from their website, and that gives me an opportunity to make a nice promotion for our good friend, Hornell Mayor John Buckley. You've been on his show. The Pulse is on WLEA. It's on at 1 o'clock Saturday and Sunday. His guest this week, Tom O'Mara, Senator Tom O'Mara. That's a good one. So that's how I segue into a promotion for the Pulse. But WLEA has the quote from Governor Hochul saying, "While I appreciate that the New York Public Service Commission worked to significantly lower the outrageously high initial rate proposal, it's still not enough. I've been crystal clear that utilities must make ratepayer affordability the priority. Since taking office, my administration has prioritized energy affordability, particularly for our most vulnerable, and we need the utilities to take it more seriously as well. That means at a time when worried New Yorkers are being forced to tighten their budgets, all utilities must follow suit. There's no time for bonuses and big raises for executives, especially if they're going to be looking to raise rates on their customers." It's always the same old boogeyman. It's not, like you said, it's not looking in the mirror. It's like, let's blame the quote-unquote rich, right? Just like she does when we talk about taxes.
Right. I mean, listen, let's be realistic. I mean, there certainly needs to be some upgrades to the infrastructure because it's been not funded the way it should be over a proper long-term period of time.
Of course.
So now we're getting all this hit. Then you double down with all these mandates for these electrification mandates, the demands on the grid, the electrification of vehicles, the electrification of the solar, wind going on the lines. That's going to, and the problem with that is it's not even reliable energy. That's the fact. Wind and solar is intermittent energy. It doesn't work if the sun's not shining and the wind's not blowing. It's not a reliable source of energy. And even from a reliability perspective, The NISO, which is tasked with making sure the lights stay on, the power stays on, the heat stays on, has said we need by 2040 to meet these mandates, 27 to 45 gigawatts of dispatchable emission-free resources. Now, for your viewers, and I know I'm inside baseball language, 1 gigawatt is the equivalent of powering 750,000 homes. So 27 to 45 gigawatts of dispatchable emission-free resource. Wind and solar does not count. That's not dispatchable. That doesn't, because it's not available 24/7. Nuclear is dispatchable. That's a reliable source of energy. Natural gas is dispatchable. That's a reliable source of energy. And just to put that in perspective, our total generating capacity in New York State is 41 gigawatts. So what you're saying, we need to, because we have to do this massive build out to meet all this wind and solar that they want to advance, is for clean energy. And where does all that appear? In upstate New York, on land use, taking away prime farmland, polluting our upstate areas.
Yeah.
They're not putting it down in New York City. And the fact of the matter, in New York State, upstate New York, 90% of our generation right now is emission free, because we have the hydro and we have the nuclear power plants, and we do have some bits of wind and solar, but that's really negligible in that amount. It's more the nuclear and the hydro. But yet
Kelly Fitzpatrick, the chair, just walked by and waved at us.
Hey, Kelly. But I mean, that's where the hypocrisy, the frustration comes. And when you talk to, we're doing all this in New York, and New York only contributes to 0.4% of total global emissions. 0.4. China contributes over 30%, has 1,000 coal plants, and build more every week. And in fact, last year, China expanded their coal generating capacity by 95 gigawatts. Remember, that's double our total generating capacity with wind, solar, hydro, natural gas, oil, and nuclear. So when does it stop? And how do we stop it? We need, start with, in my opinion, electing a new governor next year.
Yes.
Because we know those who've talked about it have said we need to address this, and we can get down. We're 0.4%. We can get down to zero, but we're not going to do anything to affect global climate change and global emissions. But we will dismantle our economy and drive more families and businesses out of the state of New York. And when businesses, they care about, and families care about two things when it comes to energy: affordable and reliable. And if they can't get affordable and reliable energy in New York, they will exit the state, like we see.
Don't you think that with Hochul coming up, you mentioned re-election, I know that she signaled that there's some delays on some of this because we're not going to hit our goals. That's all window dressing, right? To get through the election and then say, okay, now we're back on track. So she wants to keep her kind of the more radical green part of her party in favor with her, at the same time play both ends towards the middle and suggest, because she doesn't want to send a new bill to you that's that expensive, right before election. She wants to send you the rebate check.
Well, yeah, and that's why they pass it off to these unelected bureaucrats, the PSC, to do the dirty work. And there's a former commissioner, John Howard, who's been very vocal and critical of what the administration is doing, what the Democrats are doing, and he's a Democrat, saying that they're looking at costs or affordability in this process. I mean, there was never a cost-benefit analysis done on the CLCPA, what it would impact, how it would impact ratepayers. The fact of the matter is, we're talking about a $250 billion just to put this plan in place. $250 billion. I mean, where does this stop? And it's going to go on and on and on. And these rate increases, after 3 years, they're going to go for another rate increase because they have to continue to invest in this infrastructure. That's going to take time to make these mandates. But affordability, costs, reliability, feasibility, and safety are not part of the discussion when it comes to the energy plan in New York State. It's only about green, renewable, and so-called clean, and I argue it's not clean. And the fact of the matter is, their energy plan, again, there's going to be hearings next month. I mean, there's a virtual one this month, but there's going to be hearings around the state, which we hope to be very visible at, because we think we need to be. But even their energy plan, and when you look at the wording of it, it talks about having to keep what we have in place, because recognizing the natural gas is needed, and natural gas has been referred to as a bridge fuel. I think it should be a permanent fuel, but even if it's a bridge fuel, you don't tear down a bridge before you build a new one, and that's exactly what they're doing. Because remember, I said 27 to 45 gigawatts of dispatchable emission-free resource. They don't have the technology. They don't know what it's going to be. They keep talking about it, but they don't know. So how do you do this, and how do you move forward with this plan when the technology isn't in place? They don't know if it's going to be advanced nuclear. They don't know if it's going to be carbon capture or sequestration. They don't know if it's going to be hydrogen, what it's going to be. But they just keep moving forward full speed ahead with this plan. And you might get comments saying we got to slow down here or there, but they're not slowing down with the policies they're implementing. They just passed the 100-foot rule. The government was looking to sign it. That's going to just limit people's availability and access to natural gas. They got the all electric buildings act starting next year. All new buildings have to be electric. You can't use natural gas. I mean, so you're taking away energy choice. That's going to drive up housing construction. It's going to drive up the cost of lumber. It's going to drive up the cost of everything because prices are going to go up across the board. And I just don't understand. But really, their plan, and I said this time and time again, is to, because 60% of New Yorkers heat their homes with natural gas. 40% of our generation comes from natural gas. But their plan is totally designed to dismantle the affordable and reliable natural gas infrastructure, supply and delivery system. It's totally designed to take away consumer choice on how you heat your home, cook your food, power your buildings, and the vehicle you drive. It will jeopardize the reliability of the grid, and the NICE already signaled the concerns about the future reliability of the grid, and it will continue our nation-leading out-migration of more families, farmers, small businesses, and manufacturers leaving our state. That's not looking at affordability. That's not looking at reliability. That's not looking out for the best interests of the people of the state.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at the time we talked about it, there was an exemption that when we talk about reliability, that nursing homes and hospitals could use natural gas because they realized that it is more reliable.
Yeah, there are some exemptions, but at the same time,
but it goes to prove how bad the point is. Yeah.
But you have proposals out there like the HEAT Act, which would get the PSC the approval to go into neighborhoods and shut down natural gas. And then what's that leave a customer or a resident? You basically you have to convert over to electrification. So the study's done. It'll cost you $30,000 to $50,000 to convert your home over from natural gas to full electrification. That's just not the appliances. That's dealing with the circuit, the upgrades, the shell of your property. It's a significant investment. And people don't have that money. They don't want to spend $35,000 to electrify their home for a real unreliable source of energy.
Exactly.
They want that money to provide for their families, to maybe help pay for college or to get by. But yeah, they keep advancing this, and they go and follow the push of the environmental advocates. It's a radical energy plan. And Governor Hochul simply does not have the backbone to stand up to him. Because I will go back to the point where I mentioned if we didn't change our methodology from a 20-year to 100-year methodology, she tried to have people talk about it after budget and then landed with a thud. So all she has to do is put it in her budget. And I asked Doreen Harris, the president of NYSERDA, why won't the governor put this in her budget? Or is she okay with the 63-cent increase in prices at the pump and a 79% increase for natural gas? And she said, what we're trying to do is I go, I don't want to hear what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
If she thinks this is the right thing to do, put it in your budget. Fight for it. Yes, you're going to have a hard time with it, but
That's
show
your
you're
job.
standing up for the ratepayers. Show you're standing up for the consumers and affordability, like you say you are in your press releases, but you don't back it up with your actions and policy.
We got to take a break, but I had two comments, and we've got a bunch of comments coming from viewers, but this was during the week, and I saved them because I knew you were going to be on. First was Ken. I thought his was funny. He said, I just had an epiphany on how to find the money needed to get New York out of its financial crisis. Open up fracking in New York, problem solved. And then, great point, right? And then another comment, and this was from he didn't give his name, but it was a 60-year-old veteran, and he said, I would like your opinion on the NYSEG electrical scam that replacing your meter is going to reduce your electrical costs. Since 2019, I've replaced windows and upgraded my furnace and went on an on-demand water heater. Why are my costs still going up? It's so frustrating, isn't it?
It is frustrating.
When you're doing everything right and your prices still go up.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
No.
It's just it is frustrating. 100%.
All right, we'll read more comments when we come back. Those are old ones from throughout the week that I saved, but we've got a lot of comments coming in. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio in that studio. Assemblyman Phil Palmesano. Phil, you got a lot of questions coming in, so buckle up, okay? Now, this is for you, but it's actually, this is more, and I would recommend to this viewer, pass it along to your assembly person, which would be Chris Friend, because they're in Chemung County. But when someone is in the neighborhood, is growing lots of marijuana plants in a garden and selling it out of their home, can people do anything about that? People are coming and going all the time. Code enforcer and state police have been at the house many times. Is there anything that can be done to stop it?
Well, it's definitely problematic. That goes back with the law we passed. I don't remember how much exactly it allows individuals to have and grow.
Yeah.
But it's being taken advantage of. I mean, you see it. The whole way that we rolled this whole thing out to legalize it and then now allow for the selling and the dispensary of it, which we've seen the problems of that. We've seen it from the sticker store side of it, which has plagued our neighborhoods and our communities, even here in the Southern Tarrant Finger Lakes region. And then even with it from the dispensary side of it, the legal process that's in place, how Office of Cannabis Management and this administration screwed up so dramatically.
So bad.
They're not supposed to be within 500 feet of a school.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah.
And
there was 100 and some, more than that, almost 200, right, that were too close by their own rules.
Including one right here in Corning.
Yeah.
I mean, that's right down the street from an elementary school, and it's even closer to the youth center.
Yeah.
I mean, what brilliant
I know. Be careful.
idiot at OCM would approve that
Yeah.
for that location?
Well,
it's not supposed to be there, period.
Yeah, the old director of OCM said this was all intentional. They just wanted to get them in. But, you know, whatever you think, and I've been saying this on the program, whether you were for legalization, against that, I don't care about that. But these people that invested in their business and went through the bureaucratic process, and now that same group is saying, oh, sorry, we got to take it away, is wrong. I mean, we keep sending messages to businesses. And again, push aside the marijuana part of it. We keep sending businesses, just like we do with energy policy, that, oh, you've followed all the rules, went through all the red tape. Well, guess what? We're going to fine you after the fact because we now believe climate change is caused by you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like
I know it's kind of weird to combine those two. And again, that's pushing aside the pot. But I feel bad for that person because I'm not out on Market Street that late because I get up so early. I went out to dinner a couple days ago. The smell is everywhere.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's
wherever you go nowadays.
I know.
People are it's just like they think it's like smoking a cigarette. They don't care. And it's really unfortunate. And that's, I mean, my concern with it when we passed it, I opposed it all the way along because I said there was going to be unintended consequences. You know, what happened at the sticker stores. And then when we want to go after them, make tougher penalties, the Democrats only don't want tougher penalties. They just want to make, you know, just a little pat on the cheek, say, hey, you know, do better, and we'll give you a warning. And then nothing. There's never any follow up. Whether it's Office of Cannabis Management, they don't let our locals enforce it on their own. They have to have OCM do it. And then even going through this process of a legal process, that should have been caught.
Yeah.
I mean, the individual who wanted to locate a business, let's say here in Corning or Elmira, it should be done the proper way, and they should have. Yeah. Quite frankly, they should have known how close they were to school.
Well, now they want to go extreme. They want to move it even closer than the 500. They want 200.
They want to change because we were asking for the violations. You know, what kind of violations are being written. Now they got legislators want to, you know, shorten the distance so more can. It's crazy.
I know.
It doesn't make any sense. And that's not really a wise thing to be around our schools.
Not at all. Comment from a different viewer. Thanks, Phil and Frank. All this electric price increase is a ploy to gain support for green energy. If they make electric from fossil fuels more expensive, then maybe green energy will gain traction in the public eye. Yeah, you know, kind of price people out from gas, right?
Oh yeah, well that's the goal.
Yeah,
it really is. It's the goal. They want to get people off natural gas because if you do the 100-foot rule, so you don't allow new customers, either new customers or conversions to natural gas, where the 100-foot rule would be, there's a subsidy to that, no doubt about it. But that money comes back through the long-term payback that's done, because when you have more users on the system, that spreads out those fixed costs for operational and infrastructure improvements over that base. But when you take more people off the system, it increases costs for everyone else. So what do? They have fewer people on the system. The policy, they have fewer people on the system. Therefore, it's going to increase costs for those fewer people, and then they're going to feel like they have no choice but to look for the other side. And those upfront costs are tremendous, and it's not a reliable source of energy. I mean, I keep going back to the storm in Buffalo a couple of years ago. How many, 40 plus people died. If they were on full electrification, it would have been much more tragic than even that.
Absolutely. Oh, just to back up with the pot question, they've been told to stop selling, but neighbors see sell and continue. It's so hard to enforce because of the ways they created the laws. Like you said, that I can't remember how much it is, but the individual can have a significant amount of plants.
Significant.
So it's hard
more
to
than anyone
enforce
would even think about it.
Yeah.
And then if you have people, taking advantage of that and abuse it. So say it's 5 pounds, and then wow, I'll go 6 or so. Yeah. And then they're selling it for money. I mean, it's just illegal.
And it's very difficult for law enforcement to keep going into these places because of the process involved. And then if you go in and they have X amount, they're fine. So it's very difficult. I understand your frustration, though. I don't want you to think we don't.
100%.
A comment from a different viewer. How much federal money has Hochul lost New York State so far? Why did we go after Trump? Couldn't we have waited more than one day? But to put that in her budget as if there was nothing that was going to change was such a disservice to all of us.
Yeah, I mean, we knew there were going to be changes to the system. But the Democrats and Governor Hochul spent at levels they shouldn't have spent. $13 billion more than last year. Putting in place a budget that already projected, the budget they adopted before the changes came from the federal government, already projected out-year deficits of $28 billion. Yeah. Now on top of it, it's even added more, $750 million additional gap for this year, plus $3 billion more for next year. So instead of $7 billion for next year, it's $10 billion. Now we're looking at over $30+ billion over the next 3 years. I mean, that's unsustainable, but it's because we spend too much money. The budget we passed last year was a $250 billion budget. Yeah. I like to use the words $250 billion to put it in perspective, because you say $252 billion will be trillion, I think, puts it in perspective. I mean,
Sure does.
That's a lot of money, and you can't keep spending at that level. It's unsustainable. I mean, and our Medicaid program is probably the most expensive in the nation because we expand it for all these programs. There's no checks and balances on the people that are qualifying. And the main thing that they did with the federal policy was to allow, say, single-bodied people who are able can work. You got to work, or you got to be going to school, or showing you're working, or volunteering, and that drove an uproar for people. It's not going after single pregnant women, disabled individuals. It's about that one policy, and also to make sure there's some checks and balances and some accountability in the system as well, because there's tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse in the Medicaid system. And I think the total amount that's being spent is like $90 billion. Is almost more than a quarter, 40% of our budget.
Wow,
it's a tremendous amount of spending.
All right, Ken writes in, Frank and Phil, do you think that Democrats are concerned with the fact that solar and wind power are not a reliable source of energy for the people? Or are they more focused on the fact that these unreliable energy sources will become reliable sources of income for themselves and their benefactors? Fair question. I mean, there's been a lot of people who made a lot of money off of green energy.
Yep. And unfortunately, I'll say it, and I stand by this, I say it on the floor all the time, the policies being driven by Governor Hochul and the Democrats in the legislature is not about affordability. Even though they'll put affordability out there, reliability in their statements, but their policies don't back it up. Affordability, reliability.
She said her budget was about affordability.
Yeah. What an oxymoron.
I know.
And so affordability, reliability, feasibility, safety are not part of the energy plan of New York State. It's all designed to dismantle consumer choice and to dismantle the affordable and reliable natural gas infrastructure supply and delivery system we have in the state. And it will continue to drive more people out of the state, but it will jeopardize the reliability of the grid. And even the NISO has expressed those concerns with the reliability margins gaps they see already.
Mr. Palmesano, what is a positive way to fight back against NISAG? Any ideas?
Well, I mean, obviously, you can't comment. Everyone can comment to the PSC and just weigh in there. I mean, people are speaking out. But I will say this: it's a negotiation. I mean, their rates are too high.
Yeah.
And this increase is ridiculous.
It really is.
But it always starts out high and it'll get negotiated down to some degree.
Yeah.
I hope it should.
I hope so.
But you see what they just did with National Grid is concerning because they supposedly not negotiated down, but it's around 30%, $600 increase.
That's not
for
much
family.
negotiation.
And then you got the problem is you have all these other these are what they're doing now. Then you have all these other problems like cap and invest that are coming down the pipeline that is also showing increased prices at the pump for people and natural gas home heating costs. And then you have all these other policies like the ACT regulation on trucking, advanced clean car on the auto industry, which will dismantle those industries in New York State if they move forward without any recognition of the impacts and the stress on the grid when you don't even have a charging network in place. But you have to pay for this charging network. You have to pay for the substations. You have to pay for the transformers that are going to need to be expanded and built upon to meet these green energy mandates. So it's not. I'm not going to lie to viewers. This is a tough battle unless we can change the policies that's being driven in this state. But we continue to speak out. I continue to speak out. Tom, America's friend, Joe Semplinsky, we all continue to speak out. And I know our federal reps are doing the same thing, but it gets challenging and frustrating at the same time.
We better take a break. We got other great comments coming in, and we appreciate it. Keep them coming in because we got a lot to get to, and we're just getting started. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. We are back with our beautiful view of historic Market Street in the heart of the Gaffer District. Picturesque. Thank you to Boss Security for bringing us that view. And we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. In that studio, Assemblyman Phil Palmesano. Let's go through some quick viewer comments. You're going to have a ton of comments, Phil. First, hello and good morning. Well, good morning. Phil, is Elise Stefanik going to run or not? And are the electric and gas increases a done deal? Do you think Hochul will stand down on them?
Number one, on Elise, I hope she does get in. Yeah. I mean, I think Mike Lawler was a good candidate. Mm-hmm. He's announced he's running for Congress, so he's out. I think Elise Stefanik obviously has the ability.
Clear choice, yeah.
And she certainly can fundraise, well-known. So I hope she gets in. Because she'll be a very strong and formidable candidate against Governor Hochul.
100%. And the polls show her, I mean, I know it's 14 down, which some people say, well, that's great.
That's great. At this point in time, when she's not even an official candidate and a year and a half out from the election, yes.
Because the last poll that I had before Lee Zeldin, he ended up finishing, I think, within 6 points, right? But the last poll before Election Day, he was at 11 points. Mm-hmm. So after all the hard work he did, all the great work he did,
And she's 14 now.
14.
Think about where Pataki was with Cuomo in those years. I mean, so
and Elise is a fundraising powerhouse.
she is, and she can actually the money she's raised as well. She can transfer that over into the state accounts. So she'll do well if she gets in. I just wish she'd get in sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
and hopefully she gets in. But yeah, she can win.
And the electric and gas increases are not a done deal.
Not for NYSEG.
Not for NYSEG.
NYSEG, this is probably a 1 to 18-month negotiation, probably at least a year.
Yeah.
So they have to hearings. They announced the rate increase a couple months ago, and crazy. Yeah. But that's the process. So it's a negotiation process with the PSC. They try to go back and forth on what they need, what they don't need, and try to justify it. And so I hate to say there's going to be an increase of some sort. I don't think it's going to be I hope it's not the 35 and 39%. They're talking about 35 for electric, 39% for gas. So.
I think you're right. They start with, let's say 39, and everybody gets outraged and they'll go, don't worry, we're heroes. It's only 30. And that's what I'm afraid of.
Well, Governor Hochul's statement, she goes, well, I applaud the PSC for reducing, but now we have to do but that's just, she does it on crime policy. She's always pointing the finger. She does it on redistricting policy. She does it on energy policy. She does it on the corrections office. She points the finger and says but never looks in the mirror at their own policies that are causing these problems.
Yep. A comment from Ken. Unless I misunderstood something, the 100-foot rule is a moot point, since the new law starting in 2026 doesn't allow connection of natural gas or propane to any building 5 stories or under.
Corrected with the All Electric Buildings Act, that's what it does on new. Mm-hmm. But the thing for Ken and others, it's not just the 100-foot rule doesn't just affect new, it affects conversions.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, in New York City, and because I remember having this discussion with my colleagues down in New York City when we were talking about fracking back then, and I was talking to the guy who worked for the borough president, Scott Stringer, his staff person. They said, we're for banning fracking. I'm like, why? Yeah. And then as we were going on in the conversation, he's like, well, we're doing all these conversions from oil boilers. I go, excuse me, what do you convert them to? He goes, natural gas. I go, natural gas? He goes, yeah, it sounds a little hypocritical. I go, little? My God. But so there's a lot of people, especially in New York City, they have oil boilers. I mean, it's a dirty burning fuel. Yeah. And they're converting them to natural gas because it's a cleaner burning fuel. So if they want that access, now they're not going to have that access to that. Now they're going to have to, but the subsidy is still in there for electric.
Okay.
Not for gas. And I just think it's ridiculous. And I think it's taking away consumer choice. And it's going to increase the costs for everyone else because you're going to have fewer users on the system. So those maintenance costs, those capital construction costs, instead of being spread out over more people, it's going to be spread over fewer. So the costs are going to increase for everyone else, which is their plan because they want to make it more expensive to be on gas, which should try to encourage you to get onto electric. Full electrification, which is not a reliable source of energy. It's just not, period.
Comment from a different viewer. Phil, how big is New York State government? How much smaller and efficient could it become? Go Doge.
One of my colleagues has a similar legislation called COGE.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's too big. The answer is it's too big. And there's a lot that could become.
$250 billion budget, I mean, is too much, too big. And just to give you a perspective, that's $252 billion. My first year was 2011. Okay. That first budget was $130 billion.
So too much. Yeah. But that's a huge increase.
And then also, just since one party control in 2019, it's increased over $80 billion. Wow. So that's just in that period of time. So just think about that from that perspective. So, we need to make some changes in government for sure.
Finally, and then we'll take a break because I want to talk about the corrections officers. We have a great contingency of corrections officers that watch this program, and just in the area. Mark writes in, what's Phil's take on what would be your colleague, Mamadani, winning the New York City primary? Excuse me. Oof. I mean, have you seen him? It doesn't sound like you've seen him a lot in the.
Not lately. He hasn't been in Albany. Although interesting, I think he's on the energy committee. One day he came up to me. He's a nice guy, just a little out there. Yeah. Well, he's way out there.
Yeah.
But he came up to me and he asked me, hey, because he always hears me talk about energy policy. He goes, hey, what do you think about nuclear? I think nuclear is great. It's reliable. It's dispatchable. It's clean if you're looking for clean. Mm-hmm. He goes, we should talk. He never came back and talked to him. But then I got a little worried. I'm like, here I'm a socialist Democrat, or socialist almost communist Democrat, with a conservative Republican on nuclear energy. What would that be? But no, I haven't talked to him since he was gone most of the year, especially when he ran for.
Yeah, when you look at the numbers, he even the only bill he passed, he wasn't even there to vote on it.
Yeah. Yeah,
he's been campaigning the whole time.
He's been campaigning.
But I will say, if I can answer this question, I think he wins. He won the primary. Yeah. I think he wins the general.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think that would
it's a scary thought. I mean, for the business community, because all he wants to do is increase taxes on the the wealthy who can move at any time and will move. He wants to socialize everything, free buses, free childcare.
Wants grocery stores.
City-owned grocery stores, defund the police. His past he's trying to walk back those comments that he's been
not even doing a good job with it.
No,
either.
no.
Never mind the anti-Semitic language
He wants social workers on the street, not police officers.
Yeah.
I'd rather have the police officers on the street.
He wanted to get rid of the special force that came in and stopped that shooting and saved lives at the hospital. So, but it's crazy that we're talking about him. I'm the first to eat crow. I thought Cuomo had it. I'm still shocked. He got too big for his britches. He's too cocky and didn't think he had the campaign.
Sure is.
I mean, I think if he would have done that a little different, we wouldn't be talking about Mama Donnie today. Yeah. Maybe not. Who knows? But let's take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about corrections officers. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. In that studio, Assemblyman Phil Palmesano. A couple quick questions that we want to go through. Not really even a question. I think I heard that President Trump said if Mama Donnie becomes mayor, he will step in and take over the city. Do you think he will? Yeah, I do. I'll answer that.
I think if especially in the crime situation,
he would.
I mean,
he'd have to.
I mean, look what
like you said, if you put social workers in the street.
Yeah. If he tries to defund the police, I mean, people want to be safe, and they don't feel safe. And the thing about that point on the crime, Governor Hochul continues to put out statistics that crime is down.
Yeah.
Now, that's comparing crime to what it was maybe a year ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
If you want to get true crime statistics, you got to look back at 2019 to today. Mm-hmm. And when you look at that, the homicide rate, the violent crime is up significantly in the cities, not just New York City, but all across, like Rochester, Syracuse, Buffalo.
And we're learning from D.C. how the numbers are so easily manipulated. There's a reporter that put out a great op-ed where she was actually sexually assaulted on the streets. And now this is D.C., but she said if you go to look at the records, there is no record of it in what happened. It was more of a violent attack or not. You know how there's different levels.
Oh, yes.
I mean, we all know that you can easily manipulate figures. But I do want to talk about this because I don't want to run too late. And this is, and I know you guys have a fancy acronym for it, but the New York State Correctional Officers and Police Benevolent Association put out their report on the strike. And this is after, almost in a response, would you say, to the state's report?
Yeah, they did, and rightfully so, and I'm glad they did. Because just like anything, the state fails to look in the mirror. Like we talked about the energy policy, they come out and criticize the utilities, but they don't look in the mirror at the policies. Immigration stuff, they criticize ICE, but they don't look at their failed policies, like on, like we've seen bail reform or whatever it may be. Raise the age, the driver's license to illegal immigrants, all that stuff.
Yeah.
All those things that they don't look in the mirror. But with this particular, I think hits home. And I would like to say, obviously, to our corrections officers, we don't thank you enough. And what you went through with the work protests and what the Governor Hochul did as far as dismissing 2,000 corrections officers, they failed to look in the mirror about what the policies they were putting in place. I mean, this governor has created, and the past governor, over their tenure, has created a really dangerous powder keg environment inside our correctional facilities. 100%. You look at it since 2011 under Governor Cuomo and then Kathy Hochul, who's really kind of expedited this process too. 25 plus closures, policies not providing tools and resources to our corrections officers so they can do their job and be safe. More drugs and contraband getting into it. But the violence is up significantly, and it really stems from the HALT Act. Mm-hmm. The HALT Act was a provision, I forget it's the acronym, but basically it's about segregated confinement. Some say solitary confinement. I say segregated confinement, which gives the ability of law enforcement, correction officers, to segregate the most dangerous and violent inmates from the rest of the general population. So when they passed the HALT Act, they put severe restrictions and sometimes limited the ability of our corrections officers inside our correctional facilities to do that. So after year one, the assault numbers were increasing dramatically. They said it's not enough time. Year two, not enough time. Well, this year they reached year three. There's been enough time, and I think the statistics prove it for themselves. Inmate assaults are up over 76% during that 3-year period to a record high of over 2,000 assaults. Now, everyone talks about the inmates. They seem to care more about the inmates than they do the law enforcement and public safety. Well, inmate assaults are up over 169% during this 3-year period to a record high of 3,000. And then increases of contraband are up over 32% during this period of time, going from 3,500 to almost 4,700 during that time period. it's just getting more drugs. And when you got more drugs inside the facilities, you have more violence inside the facilities. So they try to say we're doing this, and they blame the corrections officers, and I don't understand. And when I went and talked to the corrections officers, Elmira, up 5 points over at Groveland, and when I talked to them, this was not about money to them. It was about quality of life, and it was about public and their safety. Yeah. I mean, they're getting going and mandated for hours upon hours, getting the personal time taken away, days off taken away from working some 12, 24, 18, 24-hour shifts at different times. And they wanted a quality of life. I mean, I talked to one CEO, said, I made this, $80,000 in overtime. I don't want that. I want that time with my family
and friends.
But that's because of these policies, and we've seen a decrease in staff. So it's just one thing after another. And I remember the budget hearing 2 years ago, I talked to the corrections acting commissioner, and he goes, we need to shut down prison because we have a staffing crisis. I'm like, how does that make sense to me, to you? I go, we have a staffing crisis in hospitals and nursing homes. You don't shut them down. You do more. You do recruitment bonuses. You do retention bonuses. You do better benefits. You make their quality of life better to help them. So we don't shut them down. So we shouldn't be shutting down our correctional facilities. But yet we continue to. And what was the governor's response last year during the budget during the protest? She proposed for more prison closures.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? What's that? That's just more of an insult. And again, with 90-day notice, because when they shut down a prison in 90 days, that's an insult to those families. So these families got to uproot their family and find a new school, new little home, or have an extra long commute to get to work. That's stress on the family. That's stress on those. And one thing the governor could have done, which would have sent a positive message to our corrections officers, is to sign the death gamble benefit. And for the viewers, what the death gamble is, so when you're in the state retirement system, you get to a certain age when you can retire. For a corrections officer right now, it's 25 years you can retire at a percentage of your salary. But if you want to work beyond that time, if you were to die after you met your eligibility guidelines and died in service, your widow would not be entitled to your pension benefit.
Why do it? Yeah.
You get a death benefit, which is meager compared to that. So why would they want to risk that pension for their loved one? Well, what the death gamble would have done is it would have protected that pension and say, okay, if this CEO wants to stay and keep working beyond their retirement time, then that pension benefit is guaranteed for their spouse and their loved one and their family. And that's what they should have done. The governor's vetoed it twice. Andrew Cuomo vetoed it twice. Hochul's vetoed it twice. And she's always said, well, it has to be part of the budget. But yeah, she doesn't put it in her budget. This is mind-blowing to me. She's just she doesn't care about the corrections officers. She might say she does, but she doesn't back it up with the policy. Just like she says she's for affordability, for energy policy. Yeah. But she doesn't back it up with her policy. She says she cares about our correctional officers, but she doesn't back it up with her policy. It's hypocritical and it's wrong.
No, and in regards to New York State Corrections Officer and Police Benevolent Association's report, who we talked about earlier, Elise Stefanik, and we'll end, we've got a break after this, but this is from Elise Stefanik, saying, Kathy Hochul has turned her back on law enforcement officers again and again, especially our hardworking correction officers. It's in a scathing report that blasts the worst governor in America for putting the rights of violent inmates over law enforcement. The union representing corrections officers stated they warned Kathy Hochul before the strike that prisons were dangerous, a powder keg, a strike was imminent, and the lives of officers were at risk. Hochul did nothing. The worst governor in America took no action and instead chose to destroy the lives of corrections officers and their families. On point.
I couldn't. She said it perfectly.
Yeah, at least
that's like a mic drop right there.
Exactly.
She said it perfectly, and Governor Hochul is completely out of touch, and she needs to go.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, wrapping up today's edition of Frankly Speaking in the studio. Assemblyman Phil Palmesano. Let's end on a positive note. We've been a little doom and gloom. First of all, this comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Always an informative Friday with Phil. Great show, great weekend to you both. That's nice.
Yes, thank you.
I forgot to call it Fridays with Phil at this point in the interview. The fair. It's that time of year. Steuben County Fair. What do you think? You going?
I am. Actually, I'm going to be there tonight. Working the booth from 4 to 6.
Oh, you took the late shift.
I did.
Oh, that's fun.
So I
was there on Wednesday. We had a lot of viewers come over and say hi and talk about the candidates. Not much, it's kind of an off year, but.
Well, the Steuben County Fair, what a rich tradition and history we have with the fair there.
I agree. Did you see this, by the way, Phil? I know I keep showing everybody. I'm a bragger, but last year somebody sent me this. A viewer sent me this. I still don't know who sent it. You can tell me at any time or take credit for it.
Eat, sleep, pig race.
Yeah, because of course
I
it's
love
not
it.
it's not the pig race. It's not the Steuben County Fair till you check out the
Right.
pig races. It's funny because when you're manning the booth and you hear the call to post, that whole place just clears out.
Does it really?
Yeah. So if you
that's
had people
hysterical.
talking, or you had all of a sudden they were waiting in there to kill some time before the pig races. That's what I've learned. But I think we've covered a lot of things today, Phil. Anything else? I think let me look at the time. We're just about out of time. I think there's a few other things. The hypocrisy of Albany saying that ICE has to wear masks.
Oh my God.
Right. I mean, this is a time when Jewish students and Jewish residents of New York City were being actively harassed by people in masks, wearing those masks for a reason. Nothing was done about it, but now ICE is the problem.
Yeah, they pushed. Governor Hochul was trying to get a mask ban, and those same Democrats who are pushing the mask ban on ICE agents who are trying to protect us were adamantly opposed to the mask ban on these individuals who are causing problems and committing crimes as well. So that's the hypocrisy time and again.
100%. Phil, thanks for giving us so much time this morning. Have fun at the fair.
Thank you.
Have a root beer for me.
Yeah.
All right. I love it. All right. Join us Monday morning. Wow. This week went fast. Join us Monday morning starting at 6 for Frankly Speaking. We'll see you then.